time than fall and winter to use your slow cooker. I use my slow cooker all year long, but I'm so ready for fall, so I'm gonna cook a fall meal today. It's something you might enjoy. I'm gonna take a boneless pork loin and we're gonna slow cook it with apples, onions, garlic, and some applesauce and some of my homemade chicken rub. Then you can just put whatever you like on the side. Noodles, spetzel, rice pilaf, whatever you like. So it's super simple. This is about a 2.5 to 3 pound piece of a whole pork loin. I buy them whole, I cut them in half, I throw them in the freezer. And what I'm gonna do firstly is I'm gonna take some minced garlic and I'm just gonna kind of spread it over the top. You know how this works, guys. This isn't gonna stay in one place. It's gonna cook and bubble and it's gonna get seasoned up really, really well. So that's just how I like to do it because work smarter, not harder, right? So I'm gonna take some of my chicken rub and I'm just gonna sprinkle it over the top, maybe 2 teaspoons. You guys can put as much or as little as you like, but remember there is salt in here, so you don't want to overdo it. So then I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna sprinkle over. I have 1 medium-sized sweet onion, and then I have 1 Honeycrisp apple. I've just cut it into wedges. I didn't peel it, I didn't core it. And I'm just gonna toss that in there because this is gonna add some of that beautiful fresh apple flavor that you're not gonna get from applesauce. I have a 16-ounce jar of unsweetened organic applesauce. You guys use whatever you have on your shelf, okay? Whatever your budget can afford. It's just applesauce. It's not brain science, so don't sweat it. That's the extent of the dish. We're gonna pop this in the slow cooker on high for 6 to 8 hours until the meat is done, and when it's finished we'll come back and we'll show you what it looks like. Our slow cooked pork loin and applesauce is all ready to go. This cooked for approximately 7 hours before I just turned it off, and then I let it rest for a little while and then I sliced it. Most of it fell apart because it was the tenderloin end, so or the sirloin end, pardon me, which is like the darker end of the pork loin. And what I did was I just sliced it up and I put some of the applesauce that had cooked down with the apples and the onions in there. I just ladled it over the meat to keep it moist. I'm gonna be serving this with some egg noodles and some fried cabbage, and that's gonna be dinner. We're gonna make some pumpkin scones, and we're gonna start by putting 4 cups of all-purpose flour in the mixer. And then we're gonna add a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of baking powder, a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this a bit of a mix. And then I'm gonna put in a stick of butter that I have cubed up, and you want that to be cold butter, and 1 brick of cream cheese that is also cold, but cream cheese is kind of soft anyway. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut the fat into the flour and the dry ingredients. All right, I have a 1/4 cup of heavy cream in my measuring jug. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree, 1 egg, just like that, and a splash of vanilla, like a teaspoon. And then we're just going to kind of mix that up. All right, now what we have over here is our flour mixture, and we have cut the cream cheese and the butter into the flour. It looks like crumbs, and all we want to do now is we want to add this liquid ingredients. Make sure you scrape that down. Now this is where you don't want to overmix it. Overmixing your scones at this point is going to make them tough, but you still want to be really careful not to overmix. Just like 10 pulses or so. I wasn't really counting. Okay, now I'm going to move the mixer out of the way, and I'm going to get this out of the bowl, and we will move on and show you what happens next. All right, I removed our scone dough from the mixer, and it's kind of crumbly and it looks a little bit dry. But if you go ahead and you knead this a little bit and just bring it all together into itself, it's gonna be perfect. And I did put a little flour on the board. And just like when you make baking powder biscuits, I like to turn the dough onto itself a couple of times. This is a bit stiffer than your biscuit dough, and you want to make sure that the moisture is going to be well distributed among the dough. You don't want soft spots, and you don't want super dry spots either. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to spread this out so that we can cut our scones. All right, I have rolled out my dough, and this is approximately 12 inches by 8 inches ish, 8.5, somewhere around there. You want to take your knife then, and because I am who I am, and then we want to cut 3-inch squares across. So we're going to cut it 3, 6, and 9. This is why it's important to have a ruler in the kitchen. And then all you're going to do is you're going to cut along those score lines, and then you're going to take and cut each one of these in a triangle. Then we're going to arrange these on a baking sheet, and I'll go do that and I'll be right back. But what I've done there is I brushed them with heavy cream, just a little bit, and now we're going to sprinkle these with a little coarse sugar. I have my oven preheated at 350 degrees, and we're going to pop these in there, and we are going to bake them for 15 to 18 minutes, or until they're puffed and slightly golden brown, and we'll be back when it's time to take them out. They smell amazing, and they're a little bit crispy on the top, and that's just how you want them. You want these to sit on the sheet for 5 minutes before you move them off to a cooling rack. And there you have it, delicious pumpkin scones, ready for any time. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna break one open for you. So these have a beautiful, crispy, coarse sugar crust, and they're gonna be great. Look at how beautiful they are on the inside. They're moist and they're fluffy. These are the perfect autumn treat. White bean chicken chili is going to have, as you might expect, we're going to do this pantry style, and we're going to use 2 large cans, 28 ounces each, of white navy beans. These are like Great Northern beans or navy beans or white cannellini beans, whatever you have available to you. A 28-ounce can of fire roasted green chilies. These were whole. I ran a clean pair of scissors down in there several times to chop them up. I like to put tomatoes in my white bean chicken chili. You can leave them out if you don't like that, but we're using a 28-ounce can of petite diced tomatoes. I have approximately 2 quarts of chicken bone broth. I have 2 cups or thereabouts of a salsa verde or green chili salsa. 2 cups of diced onion. I have approximately 3 pounds. This is 4 large chicken breasts that I have cubed. And then we get into our seasoning. I have 4 to 6 cloves of chopped garlic, 2 tablespoons each of dried oregano and ground cumin, as well as a teaspoon of dry thyme and kosher salt. This is gonna cook for about 30 minutes. And we're just gonna put everything right in here. So in goes our chicken, our beans, everything is gonna go in the pot. That's how easy this one is. Our green chili salsa, our green chilies. Now, green chilies are really the basis for the flavoring of this stew. Our tomatoes, we're gonna go in with our broth, and I may not need all of it, so I'm gonna hold back some. Give it a stir. You want everything to be well incorporated, and yes, you can cook this with your chicken from raw, but you can also saute it first, and then you can hit it with the pressure. If you're gonna saute your chicken off first, then I recommend you only cook your chili for about 15 to 20 minutes, because your chicken will, you know, pretty much be cooked at that point. All of our seasonings are going in. Give it another big stir. And you want to be sure not to go past the fill line. And I'm just below the fill line, so I'm not going to add any more broth. There's plenty of liquid in here to cook everything off. And remember, because that chicken is raw, it's going to give off some moisture as well. So this is how hard it gets. You're going to pop the lid on. You're going to make sure that your vent is on the seal side. And we're going to I'm gonna hit the meat stew option, and then I'm gonna let it go. It's gonna come up to pressure, it's gonna cook for 30 minutes, and then we're gonna go ahead and quick release it because I cut that chicken up into cubes. It's gonna cook pretty quick. And if I put whole chicken breasts in there, then I would wanna have a natural release, but because I went ahead and I cubed everything up, then we're just gonna go ahead and do a quick release. We're gonna let this go, and we'll be back when it's time to open it up and give it a try. Now, I'm just gonna leave this serving plain, but you can serve this with shredded cheese, green onions, a little bit of cilantro, a dollop of sour cream, and you can enjoy this any way you like. Then this is going to be a delicious option for you. But there's nice chunks of chicken in there. and lots of beans. The green chilies, I know someone's gonna ask me, are the green chilies spicy? This is not spicy at all. The green chilies are just chili tasting, but they're not hot. And this was overall very, very delicious. This is a great option for you to freezer bank. I'm probably gonna put the rest of this in the freezer for another meal. I hope that you give this white bean and chicken chili a try sometime soon, and I hope you love it. Okay, we're gonna get started making this really delicious and a little unusual snack mix. This all starts off with 6 cups each of rice cereal squares and corn cereal squares. In order to flavor this up, we're gonna use 1/4 cup of frozen orange juice concentrate. Mine's thawed out. I just scooped it right out of the little container. 1/2 cup of butter, or 1 stick that's melted, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. And the add-ins is where the magic happens. We're gonna use 1/4 cup of very finely chopped candied ginger. You can leave this out if you don't like ginger. I'm using 1.5 cups of slivered almonds, 2 cups of dried cranberries, and 1 cup of golden raisins. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and mix all the dry things together. And then we're just gonna go ahead and stir it up, just incorporating everything very well. And don't worry too much, because honestly, you're gonna stir this a lot over the next hour or so, because this has to bake in a very low oven for a very long time in order to set this really delicious orangey glaze that we're gonna create onto the cereal and all the dried fruit. And if you've got a lot of clumpy fruit here, then you're gonna wanna break it up a little bit. Okay, I'm just gonna get that out of the way for a second. Oh, I forgot to put the candied ginger in there, but. Okay, so I've got the orange juice concentrate, and you don't wanna dilute that at all. So this isn't just plain orange juice. It's orange juice concentrate, the kind that you get in the freezer in the little canister, yeah. There goes our sugar, our salt, and our melted butter. And I'm just gonna whisk this together. Now, I sprinkled the candied ginger over the top here, and now I'm just gonna add in all of this deliciousness. Get that on in there, and stir. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put our cereal mix, our snack mix, right in here. And I have my oven preheated to between 250 and 300 degrees. You don't want this to be too hot, because you don't want it to burn. So I'm gonna pop it in my oven for 1 hour, and I'm gonna stir it every 15 minutes. So make sure you set your timer for 15 minutes every time you put it, when you put it in, set it for 15 minutes, and then take it out, stir it really, really well, give it a really good toss, and pull all the stuff up from the bottom and get in there, and then put it back in the oven, set it for another 15 minutes, and so on and so forth until it's been in there for approximately an hour. Now, because every oven is different, and some run low and some run high, you want to make sure you watch this closely. We've got some sugar in here and some orange juice. That can tend to burn, so you want to make sure you watch it really, really closely. At the 45-minute mark, you can decide whether or not it's done enough for you. If it's glazy and brown and caramelized looking and delicious, then you want to take it out and not give it that last 15 minutes. So, all right, there is our festive cranberry orange snack mix. Your imagination is your only limit when it comes to these cereal snack mixes. You can make so many different flavor combinations. This happens to be one of my favorites. This was in the oven for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I thought it would be enough at around 45, but it wasn't. The way that you'll be able to tell is that when you stir it, it's gonna feel like it's drying out. And you don't want your fruit to burn, so a good indicator that it's time to take it out of the oven is when you see your raisins getting really plumped up because they're getting ready to start burning. That's when you want to take it out, because once they cool down, they're going to go back to their normal raisiny self. This was in my oven at 275 degrees for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I stirred it every 15 minutes, and then when it came out, I took 2 baking sheets and I lined them with parchment, and I spread this out on equally. I put half on one sheet and half on the other, and I spread it out. This just helps it to cool down more quickly, and it also helps it to dry out more evenly. Then you can put it in an airtight container, like something like this. This is what I'm gonna store mine in. I hope you give this cranberry orange snack mix a try sometime soon, and I hope you love it.